Hello, everybody. Today we're joined by Lachy Oliver, who has an incredible story about recovering from Crohn's disease, as well as a host of other symptoms related to his poor gut health, which ultimately was a cause of poor nutrition. So, Lachy, welcome. I'm looking forward to hearing your story and getting to know you more.
Thanks for having us, mate. Happy to be here.
So let's kick things off. Take us back to the pre-Crohn's life and explain how you got yourself into this mess.
Yeah, so pre-Crohn's life, I was someone I was always like fit. I was always into my training and that sort of thing. But I guess nutrition could have been a little bit of my downfall. I was under that sort of mentality and habit of eating really clean Monday to Friday. And then on weekends, I'd just go ham, whether it was drinking, drugs, fast food, whatever it was, I'd just go crazy on the weekends. And then I'd be like a drill sergeant Monday to Friday. So then the issue with that is, I guess, in the long term side of things, it's not very sustainable. But I did that for a solid, I'd say, 10 years. So waking up early to train, working long hours, and then on the weekends, I'd be out partying, wouldn't sleep, and then get KFC, a few times a week. So that was pretty much my life for a few years. As a result of that, my mental health got worse, my gut health got worse. Once I got to my sort of mid 20s, I let myself go a bit. Like, I guess the partying become more regular, the gym and eating clean less during the week sort of started slipping. Then yeah, from there, like, I had a variety of other issues. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a kid. I had psoriasis since primary school, depression, anxiety. I had a few years where like I was suicidal. The depression took me to a point where I was, close to suicide. And then from there, I got myself back on track. I was around sort of 26 or 25, 26. And then I was eating clean, doing everything right. And then once I got the vaccine, I started feeling like something was off. So I kept pushing. I kept trying to make sure I was eating really clean. I was looking at the ingredients I was eating and just nothing seemed to work. And then anyway, fast forward to the week I sort of found out I had Crohn's. I was having it was like a birthday party. I was just having like a few beers, couple slices of pizza, nothing crazy. And then I just got this insane pain in my stomach. Wasn't bloating. I was bloated, but it wasn't just bloating. It was just this weird pain. It felt like I had a way to describe it, almost like I swallowed concrete. It felt like it was setting
Jeez.
in my stomach. And then, so yeah, I didn't eat for a couple of days. I've never been to the hospital in my life. I've always been like fairly healthy. I was quite lucky. And then I went to her hospital. Main reason being, I thought it could have been appendicitis or something because the pain was sort of on my right side. So I went in, and then they took my bloods, and they're like, "No, you need to stay overnight," because my inflammation was through the roof. So my inflammation was around 70 to 80 times higher than what it should be, like the safe limits. And that would have been going on for years. That I just had never got tested. I was like a typical sort of male, didn't go to the doctors for anything. It's like, she'll be right sort of mentality. And yeah, then from there, I was in hospital for a couple more days, didn't eat for about a week. They didn't really know what it was. I got booked in for a colonoscopy a couple of weeks later, and yeah, come back with Crohn's. And when I first heard it, I had no idea what it was. I was like, all right, whatever, sort of thing. Didn't really think too much of it. And yeah, then once I started looking into it, they were like, it's for life. You've got to take all these medication. And then originally, like with the medication side of things, I'm definitely not like anti-medication or, anti-vax or anything like that. It definitely has its place. I was actually on Ritalin on and off since I was a kid. But the main reason I didn't want to go down that path was main reason being when I was on Ritalin the second time when I was an adult, I did take and it did help briefly for about a year.
Mhm.
I started getting these side effects. So chest pain was one. And then I started getting like insomnia, and my mind started going a bit cooked, if that makes sense. Like I was laying up at night, like couldn't sleep, and I was like fixating on that a tree might fall on the house. And I did that for like
Wow.
3 months straight. Like it was just, I started going a bit crazy on it.
Mm.
And I spoke to my psychiatrist, and she was like, "Oh no, it's generally well tolerated." So she like pretty much blatantly lied to me about the side effects, because you look up the side effects and it has all of those side effects on the list. So then that's when that was like the light bulb moment. I was like, hey, maybe there's not, 100% truth to all this stuff. So Yeah, then I went down the route of medication for Crohn's. I started taking it for a couple of weeks. I honestly felt like it was making it worse. Um, Luckily, like before I was diagnosed, I'm a personal trainer and a nutrition coach, so I, didn't know too much about gut health.
And Lockie, you were doing that before you went through the whole severe Crohn's?
Yeah, yeah. So I've been a personal trainer for about 5 years. I was diagnosed last year, so
Yep.
I was lucky enough to have a background in nutrition and training and lifestyle.
Yep.
Because the big light bulb moment again when I was talking to my specialist about the medication for Crohn's. She's pretty much saying like, take the medication. If this doesn't work, you're going to need to go on Humira, which is a pretty intense drug. My mum actually was taking that for her arthritis, and it wasn't great.
Mm.
And then if that doesn't work, chemo and surgery is the next stop. And I was like, well, this doesn't sound too exciting, so I might try something else. And the thing that got me was though, like I asked her, I was like, okay, cool, like I'll give the medication a try. But in the meantime, like what should I eat and what should I avoid? And there was zero nutritional guidance at all from the specialist, like none. They just said general healthy diet. And if I was just if I didn't have a background in basic nutrition and or a basic understanding of nutrition, like I would have just continued, drinking beer, eating KFC, and taking the medication, probably needing surgery right now. So yeah, a bit of a journey.
Yeah, mate, a wild story and something that I think a lot of people can relate to. Yeah, dude, I've been on Ritalin as well, and there's 100% side effects. I don't know
Yeah,
how you can not see that. Like I felt sort of just completely whacked after I took it. I
yeah,
felt that I became more reliant on taking it. That the
100%.
anxiety was through the roof. Like it was this intense kind of like tunnel vision, which was kind of good for being able to pump out assignments at university.
Yeah,
But apart from that, you're sort of like brain dead when you come off it. Like these things have side effects.
100%. Yeah. When I was taking it, so I was doing like a lot of face to face PT. Like I was waking up at 4 a.m., working till 8 at night. So
Wow.
Ritalin was like like, even though I was taking it for ADHD, but I've definitely become reliant on it for that because I just found I was super focused. I could work, 16, 18-hour days and not need sleep. So, like, you
Mhm.
definitely become reliant on it. And I noticed I went on a trip to Bali for a week. And I went with my missus and I was on holidays. Usually on holidays, you're happy, but because you can't take
Mm.
your Ritalin to Bali, I was like depressed the whole week on holidays because I had taken it for about a year straight at this point, like 5, 6 days a week. And then I was like just super like down, like not noticeably down that when my missus was like, what's wrong or anything, but I just noticed I wasn't
Could
happy
feel
while I
it.
was on holidays. Yeah. So there's definitely side effects for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And then, the story of the vaccine often kind of like being a trigger point for a bad illness to sort of spike its head. I mean, that's really common as well. I'm sure there'll be people listening who have unfortunately experienced that, or they know someone who's been through that. That must have been a pretty concerning time.
Yeah, it was. There was a bit of a confusing time as well, as it was for everyone during those times. But I didn't want to
Mm,
get it at all. But I was just under the mindset, like I was pushing against it, and then there was like that. There was a period where they were saying, if you're not vaccinated, you're not going to be able to get to the gym, or you're not going to be able to go out and see your friends. Well, you actually couldn't because you couldn't go to restaurants or pubs at that point. So I was like, you know what? All my friends, all my family have got it. Whatever, I'll just get it. And then I just remember like not feeling good. And I was going to get the second one because they made you get two. And I remember feeling like sick in the stomach because like I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I just sort of caved. And that lesson, it was a really big turning point for me because I didn't get the vaccine for myself at all. That was a decision based off the media, decision based off other people, friends, family, even my close mates. A lot of them were like, "Oh, you know what? You've done like lines of coke. Surely the vaccine can't be that bad." And I was like, "That's a fair point, I guess." But
yeah.
and that's sort of what turned me. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it, whatever. I'll just get it. But I noticed I never felt the same. And I've always been into my training. Like I've been hitting the gym or training at home since I was like 10 years old. And through this point, like I could not gain muscle. I was doing everything right. I was training 5 days a week, like eating clean. I was making sure like I was buying, stopped having like pre-workout, cut back on the caffeine, doing everything right. And I just looked the same. I wasn't getting anywhere. And this was over the course of almost 2 years. And yeah, then that led me to the flare up, and it was almost a sigh of like relief once I found out what it was, because I thought I was going like crazy. I was like, surely I'm not even 30 yet. Surely it's not this hard. Otherwise,
Yeah.
all the old blokes at the pub are right.
Yeah, exactly right. Oh, mate, wait till you turn 30, it's all downhill. It's like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah.
How do you feel now? Do you think the effects of it are still impacting you?
It's been a lot better.
Yeah.
I had a lot of other things. Like, it wasn't just the gut health. I had like the chest pain. So like, I'm not saying it was just that. It's obviously a
Yeah.
build up of everything that I was doing, but that was definitely a turning point. I think that my body was like, all right, that's enough of all this shit you're doing. But it's I feel all right now. It was a bit scary. I think I got my like heart checked a couple times, because I was getting like, there was a couple nights where I was laying in bed. I put my watch on just to check my heart rate. It was at
Yeah.
like 180. So
Jesus Louise,
just
just lying in bed.
lying in bed, yeah. And then so I went, and then they tested it. They're like, no, it's fine. Wore a 24-hour monitor. No, it's fine. So I had all these effects, and it started like, you almost start becoming a bit of a hypochondriac, like thinking, like, are you going to die? Because you feel like crap. Your heart rate's through the roof. So I never really got an answer for that. But now my heart's feeling a lot better. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
glad
So
to hear that.
yeah, that's good.
Mate, so you have this terrible flare up, you get diagnosed with Crohn's, you get told, potentially you're going to have to take all this medication, it's going to be an issue for you for life. What, and then you go looking for answers. How did you manage to discover the carnivore diet?
Well, interestingly enough, like, I had already started looking into it a bit. I was already sort of dipping my toe in the water with the animal-based diet. I was
Yeah,
eating, like, I switched from, the typical gym bro diet, like your broccoli, chicken, rice, to more so like a lot of steak, mince. And I was like, I'm actually feeling a lot better. So I had already started, but I wasn't committed to it by any means. Like, on the weekends, I was still eating whatever I want. I was, still having a few drinks or whatever. Um, so once I was in hospital, I had, about 5 days where I was bedridden. So I was like, well, I've got not too much else to do. Might as well start researching. Started looking into it, done a ton of research. I'm very lucky that I live in a time where we have access to YouTube and, TikTok
absolutely.
and everything like that. You can get a bit more non-biased information. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be too healthy right now. Yeah, I started looking into it. Saw it helped with psoriasis, had heard stories about ADHD, anxiety, and then Crohn's disease. It was actually one of Dr. Chafee's videos that I saw for the first one. It popped up on the algorithms when he was talking about Crohn's disease. And I was like, all right, so what do I have to lose? My option is, medication, surgery, and potentially chemotherapy. I'm more than happy to cut out bread and pasta.
Yeah.
So I gave it a crack. I didn't go straight into it. Originally, I went into whole foods first, like whole foods only. So because a lot of people do message me and ask, like, why aren't you eating vegetables? I actually tried to eat vegetables. So I started with just having like salads and still eating a lot of meat, and the vegetables just weren't sitting well. So I found I lost a bit of weight from eating, and I was struggling to hold weight and digest food. And then I kept fine tuning it further and further back. And then eventually I just went to, just steak only. So I went back to steak. And then I found pretty quickly that was the only thing at that time that I could digest without pain. To give like a bit of context of what the pain feels like, when you eat something that's not sitting right, when you have Crohn's, in my case anyway, you'll get this like constant stabbing pain for, solid. Sometimes it's a few hours, sometimes it's a couple of days. You're just getting this on and off stabbing pain. So
Jeez.
you get instant feedback what's working and what's not working. So it's not too hard to figure out. If you're not on medication, I know medication does help with some of the symptoms there, so you don't really know what's working for your gut and what isn't. So in a way, like, not taking medication was a blessing in disguise from the start, because I could see I was getting a direct feedback loop into what food was digesting and what wasn't. So wasn't even necessarily trying to go carnivore. Just from listening to my body, that's what led me there. So I added in steak, started with eggs for the first maybe month to 2 months.
Yeah.
And then I started adding in some fruits again. It was mainly banana, blueberries, and like coconut water, a little bit of honey, but that was about it. So that worked that made me feel really good. Like, inflammation went down, testosterone was coming back up and everything like that. Then I had the bright idea of signing up for a marathon while I was still recovering from Crohn's. So I started training for that. And then the hardest part was of all that, once I started doing a bit more of the longer distance runs, I was eating like a lot of bananas, a lot of honey, just to try and get in carbs through whole food sources. And then that sort of led to, once I got the marathon done, but then after the marathon, I had a bit of a flare up again. So I was like, all right, I've got to do this properly. And now I'm in the middle of a strict protocol. So lots of slow cooked meat, pumpkin, no sugar at this stage, so no fruit. Just started adding in dairy again, and I'll be adding in fruit probably in the next month or so.
Okay, nice. So it was almost, rather than being like, I'm going to do the carnivore diet, it was more like, I'm going to do an elimination diet and then
Yeah.
add things in and see how I react. That was more the approach.
Yeah, for sure. So it was it's a slow process, and I do say this to everyone that has like asked me what I've done. It takes a very long time. You need to be patient with it, but I added in one thing at a time, and each time I added something in, it wasn't like, say for example, well, if I was adding in blueberries, I wouldn't eat a whole punnet of blueberries. I'd have like one, and then see how
Yeah.
that felt, and then slowly built it up.
Yeah, nice. I mean, it's a very kind of scientific way to do it. At the sort of far end of foods that are completely elemental, completely pure nutrition, and very unlikely to cause any harm, that's where you have the fatty ruminant meat. And that
Yeah,
really should be the core of everybody's diet. And you're interested in eating other things, so you start there, then you add eggs, and then you were interested in trying a bit of fruit, a bit of honey, so then you started expanding from there, and you could see one by one what was actually causing a flare.
yeah,
I think that really is a great way to do it. And a lot of people will find they start doing strict carnivore, they start with maybe even lion diet, just ruminant meat, and they're like, wow, I feel great. They might
yeah,
try adding in a few other things, it doesn't work, and it just comes back to the fatty ruminant meat, and they decide to just stick there. Um,
yeah.
and you can always go back to that when you want to boost and when you want to make sure you're feeling your best.
100%. I think it'll be something that I'm just always playing around with. So, like, yeah, I definitely feel great when I'm just eating the fatty meat, and it's just nice to know that you've got that base there. So, like, what I was doing in the past, if I did have some symptoms showing up, maybe I was eating a little bit too much fruit, or maybe I was stressed, I'll just bring it back to meat for a couple of weeks, couple of months, whatever it is, and then I'd start feeling good again, and then have a little bit of like flexibility outside that. But yeah, at the moment, still my diet's like, I'd say 80% slow cooked red meat, and then I'd have a few steaks, and then a little bit of like avocado and cheese and stuff. But yeah, I'd say 90% carnivore for sure.
Nice. Nice. And I feel like you've learned a lot about yourself going through this whole process. And you mentioned that you finally kind of had the courage to go all in. Can you explain about how that transition happened?
Yeah, for sure. It's my relationship with food has completely changed. So, like, before I started on this journey, I was all about, like a lot of personal trainers are, all about flexible dieting, if it fits your macros sort of approach. Like that's where I was at, and believed in balance and all those sort of things. But my mindset's completely changed on that. Like I balance to a point. Every now and then, if you feel like you want to go on holidays, whatever, eat a certain meal, whatever you want. But my relationship with food's definitely changed a lot. It's now more so focusing on like what is the food like doing for me, as opposed to like how is it making me feel, or like is it for social reasons, am I doing this to deal with stress? Like I'm so much more aware of my actions when it comes to eating and drinking and everything like that. It's been a big journey, but the big push was I sort of come to a crossroads. I was like, you know what, how old was I? 27. I'm 27 years old. I've still got my whole life ahead of me. If I'm going to take this medication, it's probably not going to be great. It actually happened on the week I proposed to my missus as well. So I was like, it's not only me that this is affecting, it's going to affect her life and potentially like our kids' life, if we like when we have kids. So I've got to get my shit together essentially. I'm a business owner as well. Like I'm running an online coaching business, had all these things on my plate like everyone does. I'm definitely not saying I'm, the busiest man in the world or anything like that, but I had to make a decision. I was like, am I going to let my cravings control the woman I love, the future that I'm striving for, and potentially like my kids? Am I going to be like a weak dad? Am I going to be someone who struggles to get out of bed in the morning, who's lethargic, and who's going to be like the husband who doesn't have enough energy to, go do things with his wife. And I was like, I'm not gonna be that person. So yeah, I decided to go all in. I was someone who definitely like enjoyed a few beers. I used to enjoy like partying and stuff like that as well. That was, I lived that lifestyle for 10 years. So it was a big thing to change. And it was quite hard at the start, especially going out. Like all my friends are still very social. I went through a period where I was like, I'm just not going to go out to start with. And then because it was quite hard, quite tempting to, even have a couple drinks and that sort of thing. But yeah, once I decided to go all in, I had a few months. I just knuckled down, focused on getting healthy. I start at the time with the inflammation being so bad, I couldn't run, could hardly train. So I started on walking. Like I still remember my first walk. I went after hospital, was with my fiance. I couldn't even get to a kilometer. I was just too tired. Things like just going to the toilet. Like I remember during the worst of the flare up, I had so much inflammation, it hurt to pee. So I would get up, like walk to the toilet, and I would sort of just be like, have to sit down to piss. So for men, never take a standing up piss for granted, because you miss them when you can't have them anymore. so like I was just in that position, and it was just a big wake up call. It was just a build up of stress. Lots of partying, drinking, eating shit food, long nights, Ritalin, and then the vaccine to top it all off. I did that to myself, and that was a big turning point. You obviously go through that poor me phase like everyone does, but it's really important you dig yourself out of that, because if you're stuck feeling sorry for yourself and, oh, poor me, there's people worse off no matter your condition. I was in hospital, and I was feeling sorry for myself. Then you're getting wheeled around on the bed, and you're seeing people like with cancer who are probably on their deathbed, and so it's like, all right, I need to stop being a pussy. I'm gonna get my shit sorted and be grateful. And yeah, it's just one of those things. Like you give up a few things you like, and then you can live a really healthy life. My relationship's never been better. My business has never been better, and I could have been in that position at the start and said, poor me, quit the business, got like a more, I guess, relaxing job where I don't need to do as much, not being the best partner, maybe said, don't worry about the wedding and all that sort of thing. So there's a lot of different ways this could have gone. But the big thing was just taking ownership. Like even though there was a lot of pressure around things like vaccines and stuff like that at the time, I still made the decision to get it. I still made the decision to party for, 10 years, every weekend, not sleeping, not prioritizing my health then. And I'm just living with the consequences of that now. And I learned that it's my choice and I have to fix it myself. So yeah, it's a big mindset shift. I've definitely had a lot of personal growth, I guess, when you're not drinking and your brain's not foggy from all the sugar and processed foods, you do definitely learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah, you've really taken ownership over your life. And I think I'm probably just like 3 years older than you. Maybe I'm 33 now. And I reckon that late 20s stage of life, when I think you said that the Crohn's flare happened when you were about 27 or 28. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that can be a real crossroads for a lot of men. And you're coming out of this, as you say, this big period of partying, and playing sport and just burning the candle at both ends. But life is starting to get serious. It's time to get cracking on the career. Relationships are getting serious. You're engaged by that point. And as you say, it's like, all right, well, is this going to be a fairly like mediocre life where maybe I need to just quit and go and work for somebody? Maybe my health is just going to decline from here. Like, the old blokes at the pub say, once you hit 30,
Yeah.
your back hurts every morning. What's going to happen here? Or am I going to draw a line in the sand and make a change? And it can be really tough. I know what you mean through it can be socially isolating when your whole friendship group still want to go out and party. They want to do the lunches. They want to do all that sort of stuff. And you're like, well, I've got things to do and my health is too important. And that shift, you can get a bit of pushback from mates and you feel like, oh, do I need to find a new friendship circle, all that sort of stuff. I think I can definitely relate to that. And I think a lot of people will as well. But good on you for going all in and making a change. I mean, you're healthy now, you got confidence, you got energy, you got, life at your feet. You really set yourself up.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It's definitely a journey. It does just all come down to, I guess, what you're willing to sacrifice for your future, because it is definitely easier option to guess to fit in with the social circle, have go out drinking every weekend. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm definitely not
No.
against it, but for my
Yeah.
personal, situation, it's definitely wasn't where I was going to be. And I'm definitely like a all or nothing sort of person. Like I'll go out, have a couple of drinks, and then it turns into a big night. Full credit to everyone who can just have two drinks and go home. I'm not one of those people. So I just had to make some sacrifices. And I'm not saying, I'm never going to drink again, or I'm never going to, eat a dinner out again. But for this year that I had to heal myself, it was definitely what was required for sure.
I love it. So, mate, you obviously have essentially put your Crohn's into remission. Have other issues started to go away as well?
Yeah, that was the crazy part about it. So with the journey, like I only got into it to cure my Crohn's really, or put my Crohn's into remission, because I was desperate at the time. And I noticed some changes really quickly. So I got my bloods done. I got a full panel done off iScreen. If people are in Australia, they can use that. It's a good website. Um, so all my markers were off. I got a stool test done. Like everything was off. Inflammation was through the roof. Testosterone. My testosterone was around 100, which is like worse than
Oh.
an old man. So I was like, and I had like no iron at all. My markers, it definitely looked like the markers of someone that was on their deathbed, essentially. So yeah, with that, my bloods come back really good within a few months. My inflammation was gone, like nothing. My testosterone was still pretty low at the time. I didn't need to get retested. It was around sort of I think 350, 400, which is a lot more than what it was. Iron was perfect. All my markers were great. But a couple other things, like my psoriasis that I had my entire life, went away really quickly, to be honest. Like within, I'd say 3 months. I was lucky enough, like I didn't have it everywhere, but I had it really bad on my scalp forever. Like since I was a kid, it was coming down on my face, and when I was younger, it was on my back and arms and that. And then it sort of always just stayed around my scalp. Like it would just never go away. It looked like I have lots of dandruff and that sort of thing. And within sort of 3 to 4 months, it was going away and then pretty much gone, just from cutting out sugar, alcohol, probably a lot less of a stressful lifestyle as well. So that was one thing. Mentally, I felt great. So I had battled with like depression, anxiety. I was suicidal when I was younger. And for the first time in my life, I was like, I didn't have any anxiety. So one of like the things I used to get anxious about was like going out socially without a drink. Like I would have never dreamed of doing that before. Like even if it was just one drink, just to take the edge off. Like I was very much reliant on alcohol to deal with my anxiety. I'll even say on off the record, even though it's on a podcast, like before, like big interviews and like job interviews at the time when I was younger, or anything like that gets the nerves going a bit, I would always like have a beer like beforehand. Like that was my coping mechanism. Then all of a sudden, like eating this way, I could go out, go to social things. I think I had baby showers, weddings, and stuff like that. That I was sober at for the first time, and it wasn't even like I was anxious because I wasn't drinking. I was just completely comfortable just talking. Whereas my entire life, I needed a drink to have a conversation with even my close mates. Like I'd feel like you'd really need a beer just to take the edge off. So that was game changing. The other thing was my
Why do
ADHD
you,
improved.
Lucky, why do you think that happened? Why do you think that suddenly you could handle those situations without alcohol?
I think people underestimate the power that the gut has on the mind. I think that's massive. I was guilty of that as well, but I'm definitely living proof that it definitely has a huge impact on the mind. And yeah, it's just because the only thing that changed was the things that I was putting into my gut. Like nothing else had changed. I wasn't taking any new medication. My job was the same. My training and everything was the same. The only thing that changed was my diet. So I think it's very important we definitely look at gut health more seriously when it comes to mental health.
100%. Yep. I think it's a good
Yeah.
message. So
Yeah.
many people, mate, I can remember feeling like that as well, going into social situations and being like, oh, it's not going to be pleasant or enjoyable if I don't have a few drinks. And then those things
Yeah.
just stack up and it's like, well, every day or every couple of days there's something going on. So you have to just constantly be drinking. And you start
Yeah.
to, you start to crave it. You start to think, oh, I can't wait to have a beer.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
100%.
I found the same thing when I went carnivore. It was like a feeling of mental clarity. Like the
Yeah.
fog had lifted. I just felt more calm, felt more self-assured. and life was a lot easier.
Yeah, 100%. It's just the consistency like of the energy in that as well. I
Yep.
used to be full blown addicted to coffee. Like I would have 3, 4 days, especially when I was doing the long hours with PT. That combined with Ritalin probably wasn't smart, but that's what I was doing.
Mate, I've
And
been there as well. It's horrible.
yeah, it's a lot. Definitely why the heart was probably racing like it was. Um, but yeah, now I can sit down. I don't drink coffee anymore. Might have it occasionally, but I can focus all day without Ritalin, and that's been crazy. Like my ADHD in the past, like I couldn't get through a book, couldn't read a book. I'd jump around from task to task, all the typical symptoms everyone knows about. But now I can work 12 hours sitting at my desk, like without losing focus, which is crazy. And the only thing that's changed has been the diet.
Awesome, mate. Yeah, all these ancillary benefits, and all these issues that we've had to deal with for a long time that are apparently chronic and you require medication and won't go away. As soon as you fix the food, as soon as you remove all the plant toxins, all the shit that we've been putting into our bodies, and just stick to proper human nutrition, they start to go away. Go figure. Um,
Yeah,
is such a blessing. I mean, the funny thing is, you never would have gotten on top of the ADHD, the psoriasis, the mental health problems if there never was a Crohn's flare up. And all these things are symptoms of the same problem, but it often takes that one terrible symptom, that one canary in the coal mine that dies, for you to realize, oh no, there's something at play here. And
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, can you look back on the Crohn's saga as positive now? You glad it happened, or you wish it never happened?
Oh, 100%. There's been so many positives out of this, even though it's been a very tough year and there's been a lot of pain, there's been a lot of setbacks. Even during the process, my PT business was suffering because, when you're tired. PT is supposed to be high energy and look in
Yeah.
shape. When you look like a malnourished little man and
Yeah.
you've got bags under your eyes, it's not the best for a PT business. So that was obviously suffering. There's a ton of negatives, and it was definitely a mental battle. But it's like anything; like you come out the other side of a mental battle and a physical battle, and you come out stronger. But some of the benefits have been crazy. Like I would have kept staying on the path I was on, I would have always had psoriasis. Like my ADHD would have always been a problem. Probably always would have been up and down with my mental health.
Hmm.
They're like three massive things. And like to put that into perspective, like the depression, anxiety, ADHD, like drove me to a point where I didn't want to live anymore. So like it's given me my life back for sure. And then from another perspective, now I can help people so much more because my depth of nutrition and my depth of everything like that, it really forced me to level up. And it was funny, like I was trialing it with myself, and I didn't want to push it on my clients or anything like that. I was still just saying track your macros, do everything like that. But I had a couple of my clients sort of seeing how healthy I was looking and seeing how much my body was changing, and they were asking me like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm prioritizing red meat, doing eggs. I didn't even uh, push for them to do it. They just started following because, their coach
Hmm.
was doing it. They started seeing amazing results and saying they're feeling better. Their hunger levels have been so much better. They're losing weight, building muscle.
Yep.
So they essentially just started following my diet. And then from there, I started implementing it with like a lot more of my clients, and the results have just been night and day. Like they're saying like the hunger levels are better. They're no longer craving sugar at night. They're no longer binge eating. So there's been so many benefits from me getting Crohn's disease, which I never thought I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I'm a little bit biased, but you now have a real solution that can help people with modern, apparently chronic diseases, and that is a proper human diet, and you've experienced it for yourself. And I think that what you're offering people now is way more powerful than, hey, here's some macros, starve yourself and exercise more, which is the
Yeah,
message that we've all been hearing for the last 20 years. And it's not helping because people are just
100%.
getting fatter and sicker than ever. So
Yeah.
you now have like a real solution that is way more helpful, powerful, and actually works. So I think that that should do wonders for your business.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Like I've had people that are tracking their macros, and got this one client who she's been tracking her macros consistently, training. She was on 1,200 calories and she wasn't losing weight. Like
Far
she
out, dude. 1,200 calories.
there's nothing. And she wasn't losing weight. She wanted to lose around sort of 10 kilos for her wedding that was coming up. We got her on more calories, eating whole foods, prioritizing red meat and eggs, not cutting out like everything, but a good emphasis on meat and eggs. She started losing weight like consistently every week. She's 8 kilos down, thinking about 4 months, and she couldn't lose weight for years. So it's just the only thing that changed was just the food we were putting into the gut. And it's definitely something that's overlooked. And I know a lot of personal trainers and coaches want to say this is, it's another fad diet, but it's not. It's the way we've been eating since the beginning of time. I think calorie tracking is more of a fad diet, to be honest, because it's only been around for, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, 100%. You know, your gut and your body is not an oven, and
Yeah.
calories are a measure of how much energy something can produce burning in an oven. You know, we
Yeah.
need all the nutrients, we need fat for our hormones, we need to heal our gut, and then our body will do its thing. Our
Yeah.
body will build muscle where it needs to. It will let go of the excess fat. Just starving yourself, I mean, 1,200 calories, you're just putting your body into fight or flight. It's going to
Yeah.
hold on to every ounce of energy that it's got because it's so terrified of another day of only 1,200 calories.
Yeah.
You know, that's it's
100%.
just, yeah, the solution that you have now is just so much better, Lockie. And, I think your message that you put out on social media is awesome. And I think a lot of men and women are going to resonate with it. And, I hope it's really successful. I hope you can help thousands of people.
Yeah, thanks, mate. No, it's been a journey, and it's been awesome to, put the knowledge that I've learned like over the years, and especially this year, like to good use, because I know like a lot of people are out there suffering quite a lot and they don't have a lot of answers. And even if it's just one reel or something that resonates with someone, because same experience that I had, that one reel from Dr. Chafee gave me a bit of hope, and I was like, oh, maybe I can do something about this. And that's sort of why I want to just spread the message. There was a period where I wasn't going to be too, I guess, open about the journey. And yeah, then one day, like, so my mum had a lot of health issues, like growing up, pretty much since she was, 20s, arthritis. Then I got a call from her. She had a heart issue the year before, like it needed heart surgery. She needed to get a tumor cut out of her breast. And then one day she called me. So this was 2 years in a row. 1 year had the heart, next year was the breast surgery. The third year, she called me, and this was sort of when I was at a crossroads between what I was doing with my social media, if I was going to be open about this or if I was going to be quiet about it. And then she called me saying that she had a brain tumor. And I was like, all right, I'm doing this, because she was on Humira for years for her arthritis. And I was like, that's the drug I was supposed to be taking. I was like, it's a sign. I got to do something about this. I'm not going to be quiet just because, it might be, a lot of people might get upset about it. I'm going to spread the word, even if it helps 5 people, change their life. It's massive. I don't care. So I'm just going to keep posting, keep doing what I'm doing, sharing it. And yeah, hopefully it helps a lot of people.
Good message, mate. Yeah, it's worthwhile. When you hear those stories, you realize, okay, I've got something. People need to know this. It worked for me. It's working for thousands of people. You know, as much as people do give the carnivore diet a hard time online about being a fad diet or being crazy or all sorts of stuff, it works so well, and that's why people do it. And people get desperate, and then they need a solution. They discover it, and it works. And we don't need to
Yeah.
be dogmatic. You don't even need to call it the carnivore diet, because all you did was you did an elemental diet, and then you started
Yeah.
fitting things in. That's it. Eat a proper human diet, and you can avoid the downside of these modern illnesses, as well as the medication that subsequently causes so many problems.
Yeah. 100%. It's simple. We think it's something that it's, this crazy, crazy diet, but it's literally what we've been doing for years. And it's not, we don't need to fear it. And there's all this, stigma around meat and eggs and butter and everything like that. But how did we get here if it wasn't what we're eating? We all would have died a long time ago if we, red meat was giving everyone heart attacks.
Yep, 100%. All right, Lockie, thanks so much for your time, mate, and thanks for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me, mate. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.